So here I'm now interviewing my tutor, Stuart Price. I will ask you the question about the Spanish Civil War and the DJ Rebekah. First question, what do you think about Spanish Civil War?
Well, I mean, that's a very broad question, but if I can just take up one or two small issues.
Okay.
We're putting on an event about the Spanish Civil War for two reasons, I suppose.
Okay.
One, because of its contemporary relevance and impact.
Okay.
And one, because there is, my colleague Ruth Sansabido is conducting a research project into the way it was remembered by those people who were children at the time.
Okay.
So there's two halves to it. One is what is the contemporary impact, and the other question is how can we allow people to report about their research currently ongoing in Spain itself. So there's what we've got to look at in this particular event is therefore not just pure history. It's not going to be about the history of the Spanish Civil War from 36 to 39. It's going to be about the particular ways in which it's either remembered or represented. And by represented, I mean the way it's shown in at the time through forms of media like the BBC. So right, to get back to your original question about, I'm going to answer it as though you've asked me about why I think the Spanish Civil War is important, right?
Yeah.
Still as a historical marker. And I think that's because it's not only because it shows the difference between, let's say, democracy in the 30s and, for example, dictatorship in the 30s, because of course the Republic was, to some degree anyway, supported at least in terms of expression and words by France and Britain, and the nationalists were supported in terms of material and troops by Italy and Germany. It's not just that which is current in people's minds is one way of looking at it. I think the problem with that is it's a kind of oversimplification. So what we're doing is we're looking at disagreements and arguments within the Republic itself. That's part of what we're looking at, because one of the standard ideas about what the Spanish Civil War was about was exactly the idea that it was fought between democracy and dictatorship. But what we're examining is the idea that, in fact, if you look closely at the two sides, particularly the Republic, you can find conflict within the Republic. And this conflict was between those who wanted a kind of economic democracy and those who wanted only a formal political democracy. So there was a kind of split in the Republic between the revolutionary elements and those elements that were more kind of reformist, or those elements that were more interested just in consolidating the Republic with the support of the Soviet Union. So it's a very complex conflict, and even those two versions, democracy versus dictatorship, and then conflict inside the Republic, even that those two are the second one is too simplified, because when you go into it in more detail you find the complexity of opinion that existed on the Republican side. So my colleague Ruth is interested in looking at the way in which it's remembered. I'm interested in the way in which people understood what it was they were doing during the time. Professor David Deacon from Loughborough is interested in explaining the way in which the BBC represented the event in the period, and Lee Solomon, who was brought up by one of the British soldiers who fought in the International Brigade on the side of the Republic, is going to talk about his memories of those people who went out to fight.
The second question is that do you think that's going to inspire the students after they attend?
Well, it won't be entirely a student audience, because we've got about 62 people signed up besides the speakers. There should be 70 or 80 or so attending. But of course the point about cultural exchanges is it's an open event. And it's open to the public, to students, to academics, to activists and so on. So we hope that the actual purpose of doing it is to. It's been done elsewhere, of course, but is to help keep alive the idea that politics is meaningful in its raw form.
Yeah.
And that's why we've gone back to look at the Spanish Civil War. It's not just because we're researching into it, it's because it means something in the contemporary period, as I said at the beginning of the questions.
Yeah.
And its meaning in the contemporary period is to demonstrate how political positions can be articulated and represented and fought over. And it's something, I think, because there was a high participation from people in the UK supporting the left in Spain, the Republic, generally speaking, it's still relevant today. You meet people who are the sons and daughters of International Brigade volunteers. You meet people in Spain whose families were involved in the Civil War.
Okay.
And it's particularly important because in Spain there's a kind of principle of not looking back at it properly. And there are still people there who are trying to find the graves of the unmarked graves of their relatives. So what we're trying to do is to bring to the fore, particularly in what Ruth says, some of these issues about the fact that Spain represents things in the contemporary world about politics.
Okay. I know Spanish Civil War is during the Second World War.
Before.
Before the Second World War.
36 to 39.
36 to 39.
Yeah.
I mean, it's maybe a personal question. I guess you have been to Spain a couple of times.
Yeah, I've been to Spain on a number of occasions, because part of what we're doing is looking at contemporary protest in Spain. So that means visits to Barcelona, Madrid. So we've been to Barcelona, Madrid, Bilbao, where else? Andalusia, the southern part. We've been to villages like Alame Leon. What is it? Adam Leon. No, it's De Leon. Anyway, it's like the village.
It's all right.
The village where the stream is next to the windmill. So we've been to the deep south as well to look at some of these issues, and that's where Ruth conducts her research. Do you feel sad when you see the Spanish economy is going down? Well, I suppose austerity is a cross-European issue. But what's interesting to me is how in many countries, like Britain, the middle classes try to move out of the way of austerity, as it were. And in Britain, austerity has been very much focused on the poorest. Yes. Least able to mount a resistance to it. I agree with you. In Spain, austerity is it's as though it's more universal. There's still people who avoid it. But I think also in Spain, because of strong family structures, people are able to survive. But it's definitely the case that youth unemployment in Spain is as high, or if not higher, than youth unemployment in Greece. So when you go there, you can see the effects of austerity in throughout the countryside and the cities. Okay. So I will ask you a couple of questions about Rebekah. Rebekah. Yeah. She's a British DJ, but she goes to Berlin. She lives in Berlin. She lives in Berlin. Yeah. Why would you invite her? Is that? Well, it's because one of my PhD students, Zoe Armour, is carrying out research into club culture. Okay. And part of her undergraduate dissertation was all about club culture. Under the banner of something called CLR, which is called Create, Learn, Realise. And she came across. She went over to one of these events abroad, and I think one in the UK. And although she didn't see Rebekah in action, she noticed that there was this woman who was there in a very male environment. So that's how it started, because she wanted to see how she managed to promote her music in this environment. Promote the music in this environment. Yeah, within the techno culture, which is quite male dominated. So that was of interest, and we brought her over because she's an example of a young woman who's got this an interesting career, basically. And that's why we're going to ask her questions about how she got into it, what she does, who her influences are, and so on. Are you personally into this kind of DJ music? Not techno, no. No. I used to be interested in progressive trance and
Okay.
Bits of classical music, but not techno as such. But I'm interested in the phenomenon, the cultural phenomenon around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a student from China, I just have a question.
Go on then.
You know, the copyright of music in China is so different from the copyright in Western countries. It's like we can download the music tracks for free, and it's legal to download for free. Also, people would ask her, how come the musicians earn the living if the tracks can be downloaded for free?
Yeah.
I have to say, they have the way, because a lot of television stations, they would interview her, they would put her onto the gigs, onto the concerts, so they majorly get the money from the concerts, from the gigs, instead of from the the copies they sell. So I'm just wondering, what do you think about the music industry? Do you think they should evolve into, like, I can't say China is better.
Yeah.
I just find it interesting. Do you think the British music industry should evolve maybe similarly to China? Because one, you can download the music for free and get money for the...
Sure. Well, I mean, it's an interesting model. The thing that is suggested to me very, very strongly is the idea that one should support the people doing it, and you don't necessarily have to do that by making them millionaires. But that's all I would say about it, because I'm not the expert in that field. All right.
Okay. Yeah, that's very good. I have to say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.